Kelchi Mitchell shit. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I'm sick of it. The girl didn't score a single point in the second half, and all she do is jack up shots. I've seen more than enough. Either Kelsi Mitchell and Stephanie White need to go, or Caitlin Clark gotta go.
That was the response from everyone who watched, including the public, fans, and analysts. That response to the game. However, this story is now motivated by something considerably more serious than fan annoyance. Because Caitlin Clark's colleague and most outspoken on-court defender, Sophie Cunningham, is a war veteran. More than anybody else in that locker room, Clark has made a revelation that reframes all of the perplexing offensive scenes you have seen this season. Stephanie White gave players instructions not to intentionally pass the ball to Caitlin Clark games.
Clark needs to get far, far away from Kelsi Mitchell. Let's get into it. This is ridiculous.
This is what no one is connecting to. Sophie Cunningham wasn't merely spreading rumors. She made connections between each at the. Throughout the entire season, the fan community has been attempting to connect. The times Clark stood open, the ball movement that never happened, and the pass never showed up. The offensive plays that had absolutely no basketball logic, wasn't a coincidence. The person who issued the order is still currently on the Indiana Fever sidelines. Since accuracy is crucial in this situation, let's begin with the specifics of what Sophie Cunningham disclosed. Are more direct and more explosive than the headline might imply. Sophie Cunningham did not voice an ambiguous grievance regarding the team chemistry. Regarding offensive philosophy and system fit, she did not provide a tactful non-answer. She didn't act in the way that most players do when they perceive internal disorder, safeguard the institution, smile for the cameras, and say the appropriate things. She gave it a name. The Indiana Fever's head coach, Stephanie White, offered players instructions that led to Caitlin Clark being purposefully separated from the ball whilst playing. Give that some time to sit. Because throughout the whole, there have been many scandals in the WNBA's history, a teammate accusing the current head coach of purposefully. It is truly unprecedented to shut off the league's most important player from her own team's offensive. This isn't a disagreement over minutes in the locker room. There is no philosophical dispute over whether or not to run more picks and roll or additional seclusion. This particular proven on-court player sabotage is the sole cause of the majority of everyone who watches these games is doing so. Clark is not passing the ball to anyone. She refused to even toss the ball. She is terrified that it will escape her grasp, so she turns to her own shadow. She believes she will enter. If the ball escapes her grasp and she isn't shooting, she may experience cardiac arrest. Here's why Sophie Cunningham's, in particular, voice has a lot of weight right now. This source is not anonymous. This is not a used account from an outsider in the narrative. This athlete has experienced those practices and that locker room. Who has attended those coaching sessions and heard what was said and what wasn't mentioned during those film sessions? Since the beginning, Sophie Cunningham has been Caitlin Clark's most prominent and outspoken teammate ally. As soon as Clark got to Indiana, when other players remained silent, she publicly defended Clark. When most athletes in her position would have opted for the safe route of organizational allegiance, she went on the record and remained silent. She is not only willing to burn bridges, as evidenced by the fact that she is now stating this. She is prepared to burn the entire building down, if that's what it takes to be honest about what's been going on within the Indiana Fever organization. This girl seems to be secretly competing. Caitlin Clark seems to go off in the first quarter and then Kelsi and Stephanie White said, "Okay, Kelsi, no, we got to get Kelsi hers too." It's currently Kelsi Mitchell's turn. It's simply unpleasant. Right now, this Indiana Fever group is a farce. Let's be specific about something now. Something is important. Sophie Cunningham claims that players were told by Stephanie White not to pass to Clark. She is leveling a charge that has particular, demonstrable consequences in court. Because if there was such an instruction, if a professional basketball team's head coach truly instructed players to purposefully, if they don't pass to their best offensive player, then what we've seen on the floor this season isn't poor basketball. It is far more sinister than poor basketball. The coaching staff has been actively combating its own franchise's success. Additionally, as our transcripts analyst makes rather evident, the movie affirms precisely that interpretation. This is the portion of the story that ought to make every Indiana Fever supporter completely angry, since it had been in front of us the whole time. The movie, scene after scene of Caitlin. With the ball moving in a different direction, Clark is standing open and prepared. Not because the defense removed the pass, not because a different option was required by the offensive play, but rather because the guy holding, whoever was in possession of the ball, had been trained not to give it to her. Additionally, the analyst in our transcript watched this video in real time. Play by play, possession by possession. Mitchell Kelsey simply dropping the ball, dribbling into people, or simply refusing to pass. It was possible to pass this ball. Kelsey, a long time ago, this ball may have been passed. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, just pass the ball, for example. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.5 dribbles without a pass. 5 instances in which Caitlin Clark, Moven, prepared, was purposefully avoided in rhythm. Furthermore, this wasn't just a bad night's possession. The analyzer examined possession, game after possession, and the pattern was the same each and every time. Demiris has a bounce pass. Rolling to the edge is Dante's. Give the ball up, that's the pocket. The lane is visible to you. The pocket is visible to you. Throw the ball. However, you want to continue dribbling it. Like, hurry up. You must surrender that ball to the roller. Now, Sophie Cunningham's insight reframes this crucial analytical issue entirely. When a player consistently pushes their own shot while ignoring open teammates, the traditional meaning is to consistently dribble into traffic when the pass is available rather than choosing better options. Is the player's self-centeredness. The majority of individuals interpreted Kelsey Mitchell in this way. Seasoned in this tale, Kelsey Mitchell might also be held accountable. However, Sophie Cunningham's assertion adds a totally different variable to the equation. What if a few of these players weren't acting on their own? What if the coaching staff at the top gave the order to keep the ball away from Caitlin Clark? It was being carried out by several players in several games due to organizational guidance. Hey, it's a circus. She plays as if she is by herself. When this occurs, it truly is a circus. Man, there are girls out there, she's simply lost in her own world, as if she's dribbling by herself in a mirror. Because this is what Sophie Cunningham's. Our comprehension of this entire season is altered by revelation. Every perplexing possession. Every second that Clark was there, open, and the ball moved in a different direction. Every offensive sequence that, by any traditional analytical criterion, was illogical from a basketball perspective. There is now a single, cohesive explanation for everything. He was instructed not to pass to her by the head coach, and the movie, which the analyst examined. Random player selfishness is not demonstrated by possession. It is proof that a directive was obeyed. I'm just going to run in here and puke. Get that out of here. Angel Reese blocked your shot as he was celebrating. This chick simply doesn't want to pass the freaking ball. Man. Watching Kelsey Mitchell play basketball is absurd. Let's now discuss Stephanie White specifically. Because Sophie Cunningham's disclosure puts the Indiana Fever's head coach at the heart of the most serious accusation in the history of WNBA coaching. Additionally, I want to give this the weight it merits. Because it's tempting to skip over the analysis and focus only on the outrage in a story this dramatic. However, the analysis is precisely what justifies the fury. Let's give it some serious thought. What does it indicate when a head coach tells players not to pass to a particular teammate during a game? Throughout the history of professional, there have been recorded instances of coaching dysfunction in basketball, the NBA, the WNBA, and international leagues, politics in the locker room, and poor management of talented players. These things take place. They are a component of the intricate professional sports human reality. However, a coach who deliberately tells players to keep their own, the offense's top player, is something entirely different from any of those circumstances. That coaching philosophy is not flawed. That isn't an incorrect system fit, that's sabotage. Caitlin Clark must obtain the avoid this Indiana Fever team at all costs. This group is a farce. This coach is a farce. Kelsey Mitchell desires that it be. Concerning her, she also has no other options on the floor if she isn't making shots. Let's consider the motivation question, as it is the one that all thoughtful viewers of this narrative will pose. Why would a head coach give instructions? Why didn't her players pass to Caitlin Clark? What non-basketball reasoning or basketball logic may be used to explain that? Choice. There is no basketball logic. The opponent has neither an offensive nor a defensive strategy. Is running. There isn't a scenario in the game where it makes sense tactically to remove your best players on purpose. Most effective offensive player based on how you move the ball. Therefore, if basketball logic is unable to explain it, what does? One of the most unsettling realities is what Sophie Cunningham's discovery suggests. In professional athletics, politics, ego, and the internal power dynamics of a coaching staff that felt intimidated by the size of a player who was greater than the team. This girl seems to be secretly competing. Caitlin Clark seems to lose it. Stephanie White and Kelsey say, "Okay, Kelsey, no, we got to get Kelsey hers too," during the first quarter. It's Kelsey Mitchell's turn now. Because this is the actual state of Caitlin Clark's career. Basketball that no one in the Indiana Fever organization has ever felt completely at about discussing in public. She transcends the franchise. She is larger than the coaching staff. She is greater than any one person. Informal organizational choice made within that structure. Casual sports enthusiasts are familiar with the Indiana Fever because of her name. Exists. Because of her presence, major broadcasters attend games that would otherwise be local sports stuff. Sponsors are paying cash to a franchise that was financially successful because of her commercial worth. Invisible prior to her arrival. And a coaching staff that is not motivated by that reality but rather feels frightened by it. Will look for ways to lessen the threat, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Sophie Cunningham's disclosures implies that the decrease was not unconscious during the Indiana Fever. It was given instructions. Stephanie or Kelsey Mitchell. Either White or Caitlin Clark must leave. We must now discuss the issue raised by Sophie Cunningham's admission. Makes it impossible to avoid. Where does Stephanie and Kelsey Mitchell's personal responsibility end? When did White's instructed dysfunction start? Due to the complexity of this tale. Additionally, an honest appraisal necessitates us to hold two objects at once. Mitchell's own actions on the court have proved controversial on all measurable criteria, and that the coaching setting she was working in might have actively encouraged or even directed that conduct. Kelsey Mitchell returned to her performance against the New York Liberty, where she was just ball hogging and jacking up shots left and right when she was 6 or 7 of 21. She was unwilling to pass to anyone. This is the candid basketball analysis of Kelsey Mitchell. Mitchell shoots the contested pull-ups, and she is an explosive offensive talent who creates real value when the circus layups are converting.